Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. Today's guest is Vinnie Lobdell, the president of Healthway, which is a family-run business specializing in customized air cleaning systems for major hospitals, hotels, and commercial office buildings. And he's also the co-founder of IntelliPure, a maker of a home air filtration system. So I was introduced to Vinnie by an earlier guest on the podcast, Max Goldberg, who swore by the IntelliPure air purifier. And now Max, if you know him or if you listen to the episode, he is like Mr. Organic, Mr. Super Clean, and he's really conscious of anything that's coming in contact with him and that's going to impact his health. So I really trust and value his opinion. He spoke really highly of it. So I said, okay, I want to be introduced to Vinnie and see what he has to say. So he put me in touch and we really hit it off talking about all things air quality and pollution. So I knew I had to have him on the show to talk about the importance of clean air, especially in our homes. The Environmental Protection Agency has found that indoor air is often 2 to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. Now imagine if you're living in a heavily polluted city like New York or LA. That is pretty toxic. Now, as you'll learn from this episode, air quality does have a large impact on our health, and not just our lungs or breathing. Poor air quality can also have a serious effect on our cardiovascular system in particular, and it could even lead to other minor problems like itchy and watery eyes, headaches, migraines, things like that. It can really impact our overall health, which is why it's so important to make sure that we have clean, healthy air to breathe. As you'll learn in this episode, I've recently become increasingly aware and concerned about air pollution. So Vinnie was nice enough to send over his IntelliPure air filter. And I'm currently in the process of moving, so I haven't set it up yet. But once I get settled, I will set it up and let you guys know how it goes over on Instagram. And I figured that after listening to this episode, many of you would want to purchase a high quality air filter. So I asked him to provide you with a discount code and he happily obliged. So if you want to try the IntelliPure air filter after you listen to this episode, use the code HAPPIER, HAPPIER, for 10% off your order. Now let's get into the interview.
Vinnie, thanks so much for being here.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Sure, of course. So one of the things that we bonded over, we were introduced by mutual friends, and we bonded over our love of clean air. So to kick us off, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your backstory on how you got so interested and involved with delivering clean air.
Yeah, so it's been kind of a lifelong passion. We've been involved in the business. I was really kind of born into it. My father was involved in clean air and technology back in the early 80s when no one really cared about it, or only people that had severe allergies or asthma or had a very serious illness looked at clean air. And he developed a little filter to go on a wood stove, and that's basically how we started. And then in the late 90s, we joined forces and really started looking at how clean air impacts human health and how the built environment and how we live in the built environment impacts our health. And so we developed the Healthway brand, which is the parent brand of IntelliPure. And we really looked at air quality from every standpoint, whether it's a commercial building, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a home, and really looked at how different pollutants impact human health. And so we really spent all of our time and all of our resources on developing products and solutions that really make a true impact inside of homes, buildings, offices, etc. And now what's really exciting about the space is as it's grown tremendously, it's such a key component of wellness. We looked at how we can give people the ability to actually monitor it and see it firsthand. And I think it's just an exciting time because we now know that, unfortunately, we know that air quality is a number one health concern facing humans. Air pollution is the number one health concern facing humans, according to the World Health Organization. And for us, we feel like we're really focused on delivering true solutions to meet that challenge. And so it's been a passion of mine ever since I was a young man. And now as I've gotten older, we just really continued to focus all of our effort and time on really delivering true solutions. So I've traveled to over 50 countries to kind of evaluate it and be involved with it.
Yeah, and I know you have a great air cleaning system, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I want to get back to what are some of the concerns of constantly being exposed to air pollution? I think there's definitely more knowledge around it now, but I think it's also not such a huge concern. I think people are more focused on, healthy food and clean water, getting a water filter, things like that. But I still feel like air is something not everyone thinks of initially as being something really important and crucial to our health.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the biggest challenge with air, a lot of the times we can't see what's in our air. And so the biggest challenge you have is cleaning the water. People are doing that. They can taste the difference. They can taste chlorine. They can taste the water smells. But most people relate good air quality or bad air quality to temperature and humidity. They either feel it's too warm or too hot or it's too humid. So the biggest challenge with air quality nowadays is these ultrafine particles. We found that ultrafine particles, and it's education, as you mentioned, these ultrafine particles are making people sick. So cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, dementia, fertility are all being linked to particulate pollution. And so if you look at it from a standpoint of really what's in our air, you have VOCs, these gases and odors, which people can notice in some cases because they smell. And then you have these particles, and the smallest particles can go right to our bloodstream. And these are the things that make humans sick. And then we have the bioaerosols. So if people always ask, well, boy, everyone gets sick on an airplane, it's really not the air pollution on a plane. It's the proximity. We sit next to someone and someone's sick and they sneeze, and then that's transmitted to us. So I agree that, the air quality side of things and air pollution in general, there's a lot more media coverage on it now, but I think you'll see over the next few years, just because of the linkage to all the diseases, that air quality is just such a major component to our health and wellness. And looking at it from a tactical standpoint and seeing the different levels of pollution in your home with air sensors is really coming to the forefront. So I think you'll start to see that with all the new homes that are being built as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started getting interested in air quality and just even thinking about it, this was probably one of my first apartments. I was living in New York City and my apartment faced the back of the building, like an alley. And it was like a very small studio. And I just always wanted to get fresh air. And, the windows only open like 2 or 3 inches in there. So I would always, the windows would constantly be open. But I would notice my white windowsills would become black in the matter of like a day or two with all this like dust and whatever particulate matter. I don't know what it was, pollution. And so I'm just thinking like, okay, this is what I'm breathing in, And so that's when I started thinking about it. And I think that's the problem is like, we don't really see it. And I think we know New York City and LA, we know these cities are polluted, but it doesn't, I don't know, because we're not like constantly face to face with it, I think it becomes like an afterthought. And I know that the indoor air apparently is worse than the outdoor air, right?
Yeah, so all indoor air is made up of outdoor air, right? And what happens is the EPA basically states that the indoor air quality is 3 to 5 times, up to 100 times worse than the outdoor air. And so when you said that you would open a window, you're letting in all that, you say fresh air, it's actually polluted air. And so in a lot of the new buildings that you're seeing built all over the world, they don't allow for any windows to be open because they want to control the variables as much as possible. So what you have is an issue where you wanted to get some outside air and you're bringing in that polluted air. But the inside air, what happens is we've made our homes, we've made our built environment so efficient nowadays. Why? Because of energy costs, that we've basically encapsulated and created a time bomb of pollutants in the home. So our activity, how we walk on carpets and all the things we do, basically get everything moving around in the space. And if we don't have the right ventilation, if we're not cleaning with the right green cleaning products, if we're using candles, all these things add to the pollution. And so really looking at our behaviors and our built environments, a critical component of health and wellness inside the space. So it's not just cleaning the air, it's how do we live inside that space and how are we ventilating our homes and what products we're using to add or subtract from the pollution problem.
Yeah. So what are some tips that you can give us then in terms of keeping our air quality as good as best as it can be in terms of what we're using and what we're doing in our home?
Yeah, well, we always say that you should certainly be using like a green, environmentally friendly cleaning product because a lot of the pollutants inside the home are created from sprays and chemicals that we use to clean. And that's a major no-no. And we always say you should not use candles. We always like to use them, but you should not use candles. Looking at the humidity in your home, one of the big issues, mycotoxins, molds that make people sick, is if you have a high humidity environment, you can check in your bathrooms. You can see that there's light mold growing in certain spaces if the humidity is too high. You have to get rid of that stuff. We also recommend, hard surfaces instead of carpeting. That's what we're kind of firm believers in. Hard surfaces are certainly a plus over carpeting and, the softer surfaces, which can store and harbor certain things. And then certainly if you have a highly efficient home, looking at an ERV, an energy recovery ventilator or heat recovery ventilator, which would bring in fresh air from the outside, like you were talking about in New York City, and at some level filtering it so you're getting exchange, you're bringing in a lot of fresh air instead of just recirculating it. And we always recommend, as well as the EPA, is cleaning the air with a high-quality air cleaning system. It's really crucial that you are scrubbing the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to create the cleanest and healthiest home. Similar to drinking water, right? I mean, we don't just drink the water. We filter all the water we drink, and it's the same with the air. We should be filtering the air at all times.
Yeah, and I do want to get into the filters and how do we choose a good filter, but I just want to step back for 1 second and talk about AQI, which is the Air Quality Index. Yep. So this is something I look at now whenever I'm traveling, because I'm always traveling somewhere. I like to look at the AQI before I go somewhere because a lot of places in this world are very, very polluted. And I've been to places where you can actually feel the pollution and you can see the pollution, you can smell the pollution. So what is the AQI and why is it important? What should we be looking for and what can it tell us?
Well, the AQI is really simple. It's an index for reporting daily air quality. So there's sensors all over the world, and a lot of times you'll see them on telephone poles. People don't even realize it, but they're actually measuring the air quality. And the AQI runs from 0 to 500, and it has different ranges. So 0 to 50 is good air quality, 51 to 100 is moderate air quality, and it continues to go up. And 301 to 500 is hazardous air quality, but it really focuses on the health effects you may experience within a few hours or days after breathing that polluted air. So cities have this, and it basically gives you a readout of how certain pollutants and what certain pollutants are in the air. So it's ground level ozone, particle pollution, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide. And so they're looking at how to change that and basically how they can add to that. But right now, that's what it's measuring. And it's giving you a number that's telling you where the levels of pollution are at a given time. And that changes dramatically, right? So in LA, you'll see a major swing during rush hour traffic of the AQI. And what's really interesting about the AQI is we can now tie this to indoor air and show what outside air is and what the air quality is inside your home, and then show how much healthier you can make your space.
Right. So it's something like, is it 2 to 5 times higher in your home in an indoor space, something like that?
Yeah, the EPA states that the air quality inside a home is 2 to 5 times higher than it is outside. We've created a really cool tool on our website where you can check your air quality. And what we've done is you just type in your zip code, and that gives you the AQI, and at times it actually multiplies it by 4 because the EPA states 3 to 5 times higher, and it gives you general guess on what your air quality would be inside your home at this time.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And one thing that is interesting and also scared me at the same time looking at the AQI and learning more about it is that at those higher levels, like you mentioned, they actually suggest certain groups of people don't go outside, especially anyone with heart issues, for example, because the air is so unhealthy for them. And I think it's after the second or third level, it's like, okay, some people are sensitive, more people are sensitive, more people are sensitive. And it's just, you would think, oh, air pollution, maybe it's only affecting our lungs and maybe respiratory issues, but it actually affects a lot more than that.
Oh, it affects our skin. We're consulting with a company right now who's a very prominent skincare company who's looking at offering a line of air cleaning products because they're now saying that these ultrafine particles are impacting our skin health. And so, the skin's one of the largest organs. So these are the things that people don't understand because they don't see it. But now that the AQI has brought air quality to certainly made it much more prevalent, the same's happening with indoor air quality monitors. So we can see it all times, but it impacts so many things other than just, our lungs. It's our brain, it's our breathing, it's sleep, it's all these things.
Right. So, all right. So let's say we figure out our AQI, it's pretty high, and we want to get an air filter for our home or apartment. I've heard a lot about HEPA filters, that those are supposed to be really great, but I also heard that they're not actually the best. So can you explain what we should be looking for in an air filter, and is the HEPA filter good, or what's a better option?
Well, something's always better than nothing. The biggest challenge you have when evaluating a customer's need is really understanding that all air quality problems are not the same. So what we try to do and how we educate on air quality is first understanding what the concern or what the issue someone's having. So a HEPA filter stands for a high efficiency particle arrestor. And what it tells you right inside that definition what it's doing. It's arresting particles, which is one pollution category at a high efficiency. Okay, so there's three. Before we know what effective air cleaning is or what an effective air cleaner is, we really have to understand what's in the air. Really simple, three pollutant categories. Particles is the first. They range from very, very small, ultrafine particles, all the way to large particles. Second are VOCs. These are the volatile organic compounds, the gases and odors that are prevalent that come from the off-gassing of formaldehydes from cheap furniture to paints to toxins. And the third is bioaerosols, molds, viruses, bacteria, and fungi. So you asked specifically about HEPA. HEPA is capturing a high level of particles, a high efficiency of particles. The challenge you have is we call them the big box HEPAs, the retail HEPAs that you'll buy that are lower cost ones. And they're using the term HEPA, but in reality, they're not achieving a HEPA efficiency. A HEPA efficiency is capturing particles at 99.99% efficient at 0.3 micron. To give you, and I don't want to be too technical, so if I am, just please let me know.
But no, we like the technical.
Okay, so 0.3 microns, 900 times smaller than the tip of a human hair, to give you an analogy. So it's capturing those particles, but the challenge you have with HEPA, and we do build HEPA products. We build HEPA for a lot of other companies. The biggest challenge you have with HEPA is that although it's very efficient, it has a limited impact, cleaning impact in the space, because for you to have an effective air cleaner, you really need to exchange air, right? So it's capturing a lot the first time through, but it's not necessarily exchanging a lot of air, so it has a limited air cleaning impact. The second drawback with HEPA is it's like a wall. You throw a million particles at it and it captures a lot of them, but it's very hard for me to push air through that filter without making a lot of noise. So we know that a lot of consumers are concerned with noise of an air purifier. And so noise is a drawback of HEPA. You have to really push a lot of air through that filter to make an impact. And so we found that to do that, you have to have a very strong blower and motor, which creates noise. The third drawback of our HEPAs and any HEPA that's made out there is that they collect a lot, but they're not destroying anything. So mold, virus, bacteria, and fungi. If that filter's not changed timely, it's called a breathe-through phenomenon. It actually, mold, virus, bacteria, and fungi can breathe through that filter and can be dumped out through the space again. So that's why you'll see in hospitals when people go in and change the HEPA filters, they wear masks and all that because they're not sure if there's living organisms in it. And then the fourth drawback is limited filter effectiveness or lifetime filter effectiveness. So that filter is going to perform really good day one, and as it becomes more and more clogged, it reduces the cleaning impact. So the cleaning impact is going to get greatly reduced over the life of that filter. And so we found that there are better ways of handling air cleaning now than the standard mechanical filter like HEPA, if that gives you kind of an overview of the HEPA filter.
Yeah, that was actually very great because I feel like I really understand what some of the drawbacks are. You've explained it really well. So what are the better options then?
Well, there are some good technologies out there. You probably heard some of these. We have an electrostatic precipitation concept, which basically is plates that are particles are positively and negatively charged. And so as particles go through this, it collects those particles. The biggest challenge you have with electrostatic precipitation is when those plates get dirty, there's no charge, and it loses its efficiency. So there's a lot of maintenance to that. Where with HEPA, you replace a filter, and that filter can be very costly if you're running the machine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Electrostatic precipitation is less costly, but it's more burdensome to maintain because you have to clean those plates at all the times. So it's a bit more of a challenge. Now, when you're looking at how to address air quality from a holistic standpoint, not just particulates, then you'll get other granulars. You'll add carbon, or you'll add zeolite, or you'll add potassium that's put into a filter that handles the high-level gases and odors. And there's now, photocatalytic oxidation technology, which is, you've seen them out there in some branded products that are currently being pushed quite heavily on the market. And Photocatalytic oxidation is basically oxidating particles and gases and odors and bacteria. The biggest challenge we found with that, and we've done a lot of work with photocatalytic, is that the contact time in collecting is you have to collect things and it has to excite the photocatalytic for it to really work. And the challenge with most residential, smaller portable air cleaners is it's just not effective. Finally, a technology a lot of people talk about is ultraviolet radiation, UV. And we've built a lot of UV systems over the years for AIDS isolation, tuberculosis rooms. And I use a real common analogy where UV is effective if the virus, mold, bacteria, and fungi gets enough contact time in front of that UV bulb. The challenge you have is it's just not effective residentially. So when we would do UV systems, we would put them in AIDS isolation or tuberculosis rooms. We'd run a UV bulb down a duct of a home or a hospital. We'd have to monitor the airflow by the bulb. We'd have to monitor the degradation of the bulb. We'd have to monitor the shielding of particles. It's too costly to do residentially, and there now are better ways to do that as well. So that gives you some other technologies. And we've developed our own technology after 35 years of innovation that we've pushed into the market, patented and pushed into the market that's utilized inside of our brands that I can touch on when you're...
So explain that. So your system is called the DFS system, right? Disinfecting Filtration System. So can you explain then what that is exactly and
Sure.
why we need it?
So first, and this is our company philosophy, we believe in all technologies. It's the utilization of technologies that's important. So if we look at a residential air cleaner, the goal was how do we create a system that removes the most from the air at the quietest level, has a significant long lifetime filter performance to help ease the maintenance costs for consumers, and addresses all three pollutant categories. Most air cleaners in the market today are set up to address one. Our goal was to address all three. So what we did on a research grant with the U.S. government, we developed DFS technology, Disinfecting Filtration System technology. And I'll give you a side-by-side comparison with HEPA so you understand it. The 4 drawbacks of HEPA we discussed, we compensate for the 4 drawbacks of HEPA. We have a 90% medical grade, 100% sealed, individually certified tested filter that's handcrafted and made right here in upstate New York. Then what we do is we have an 18 kV, it's kilovolts, low amperage system that's tied in with that main filter. So we're charging 100% of all particulates as it comes through that filter, clumping them, making them larger to capture, easier to capture, and we're collecting greater than 99.99% at 0.007, 40 times more efficient than any HEPA in the world with much less pressure restriction. So we can move much more air through the filter at a much higher efficiency than any air cleaner in the world, guaranteed. We show it side by side with any air cleaner. So essentially what we're doing is clumping the particles, making them bigger through the DFS zone, and making it easier for that filter to capture with much less restriction, much lower restriction, so we can push a lot more air out quieter than any machine. That's 2 of the benefits. The other benefit you have is within that 18 kV, we've collected everything inside that media filter. We're then treating it with that 18 kV, creating a form of microbiostasis. So molds, virus, bacteria, just like you and I, they need nutrients to survive. We've created as a high in that 18 kV a zone where nothing can grow inside that filter, so you don't have to worry about breathe through. The other benefit is since the tech filter is such, it's much less dense, we get much greater lifetime filter performance. So the day you put a medical grade HEPA in, or the day you put an ULPA filter in, which is more efficient than HEPA, you're going to get less and less effective air cleaning over the life of that filter. With the DFS, we get much greater lifetime filter performance because the filter we're not relying simply just on the filter for that efficiency, we're utilizing technology. So to sum that up again, much higher airflow at a lower decibel level of noise, much more significant air cleaning efficiency, much greater lifetime filter performance, and then we've created microbiostasis in the filter so nothing can grow. We've coupled that with a proprietary blend of gas and odor granulars, so we also are getting a high-level gas and odor remediation and removal from that system. So we've addressed all 3 particle groups at the highest efficiency, and we've done it in a way where we're respecting the consumer by giving them the longest filter life in the industry as well.
Got it. Yeah, no, those are all great points because to be honest with you, when I was first looking for a filter, I was going for the one that would look the nicest in my living room. And apparently that's not a great criteria.
Well, so, Maria, what's interesting is that's what a lot of people are doing. So there's this huge air quality wave out there. Everyone's talking about air quality now and why it's so important. And so what a lot of companies are doing is they realize that most people buy appliances on the way they look. Unfortunately, the way it works is the smaller the air purifier, likely the less effective it'll be, because the science behind air cleaning is you need to move a lot of air, which creates noise, to properly treat a space. And so it's all about, what are you buying that machine for? And if you're buying it to truly make an impact on your health, then you have to look at the volume of air it's moving, the efficiency it's moving, and generally those are larger machines.
Right. And so can you explain then, do we need, if we have an apartment, like a New York City apartment, is that one filter going to reach the entire apartment? Like, let's say it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, or do you need the filters in the different rooms? And then also for a house, if someone's living in a large house, do they need multiple filters, throughout?
Excellent question. So I think I briefly touched on earlier, not all air quality problems are the same. And they're certainly come in all different shapes and sizes. And so what we tell people is not one air cleaner is going to work right in every application. So you'll find that portable air cleaners are only going to treat the air that can get to them. So they're really meant for bedrooms, spaces less than 1,000 square feet. Really, to get effective cleaning, you need to change the air in a space 3 times an hour or greater. So if you buy a machine and you put a small machine in a 300 or 400 square foot space and you put it on low speed, it's virtually doing nothing. People are being fooled. You shouldn't even buy a machine unless you're going to run it to operate it in a way that's going to be effective. So in a New York City apartment, portable air cleaners are perfect. You put a machine in a bedroom or in a space, you run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Air cleaning is not an event. It's a continual process. So you should filter air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and run that machine at the desirable noise preference for the consumer, and you'll get a good reduction in particles. That's called recirculating. We're basically recirculating air and filtering it through the system. Then for larger spaces, the way the market's moving is certainly integrated systems, which integrate directly into your HVAC system, or they integrate into a building management system if it's a commercial building. And that's why you'll see with our range of solutions, we have products for each individual application. Because ultimately what we're trying to do is solve a problem for a consumer. We're not trying to just sell a product and have it sit next to their bed and have it not do anything. We're really into creating real solutions. And so for a home, we would recommend, if they heat and cool with a furnace or an AC system, to install a system at point of entry, which is filtering all the air throughout the home. Now, people that are highly sensitive, in most cases, we do this often, they'll install a whole house system, which is filtering all the air that's coming into the space, and they'll also put a portable unit in the area they spend the most time for high-level circulation. Basically, we can create a Class 10 clean room inside someone's home and make it particle-free.
Wow. Yeah, and I know, and you've touched on this, you install a lot of these systems in hospitals and even hotels now, right?
Yeah, our sister brand is called Pure Wellness. And Pure Wellness is, if you stay at a Hyatt, a Hilton, a Marriott, globally, we've got about 5,000 rooms at this point, and it's growing rapidly. We do the Pure Wellness room process, and our machines are utilized in all these rooms at the highest level to create that experience. So whether you're staying in Tokyo or Taiwan or Toronto or New York City, you can rely on a consistent wellness experience well on the road, which is a major challenge. And we work with hospitals and commercial office buildings all over the world as well. And basically, we work with the engineering team to see what the issue is. We design a system specifically for that issue, and then we commission that system. So our machines can be found at some of the most mission-critical locations around the world. And we basically taken that technology and adapted it to our residential, portable, and inline air cleaning systems to provide that same level of air cleaning that those people have now for the home.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we don't even think about. I had Max from Living Maxwell on the podcast recently, and he was talking about how in hotel rooms, often the windows don't open. And so you're staying in a room where it's had that same stale air for God knows how long. So it is really important that when you're traveling to also try and find places that are going to have some higher standards in terms of health and wellness initiatives, and look for ones that are filtering the air or that you can open the windows.
Yeah, if you go to pureroom.com, you can find out all the locations globally that actually have Pure Rooms. And what you'll find is it's not simply just cleaning the air. If we want to create the healthiest environment possible, we have to look at our habits and how we interact with our built environments. And that's what's really crucial. And we're developing software now that'll give people a real idea of how they can see their built environments and see how their activities impact their built environments, which ultimately the goal will be that data will be mined so we can give people a real understanding of when they're interacting with their built environment, what their activities are doing and how it impacts their health. And based on that, our machines, our hardware will then talk to this at a hotel, at an office building, or at your home, Maria, and give you a real clear idea of how you can make a better impact in your space. And I'll give you a real quick example on that. With the AQI, which you brought up, we can actually know at all times what the outside air quality is. With our sensing, we can put the sensing in the home. It'll actually tell you, Maria, bedroom number 3 has a high level of VOCs. And it'll send a push notification to your phone. You can see that. And based on that, if you decide to do something, it'll tell you, great, and it'll say, hey, but the air quality in New York today, the AQI is good. Open a window, bring in some fresh outside air. Or if there's mold in your bathroom, or if there's a high humidity in your bathroom, the humidity in your bathroom's high, turn on your ventilation fan. So our goal is to give people the right amount of information and knowledge to empower them to make good decisions in how they live in their spaces.
So interesting and fascinating what technology can help us do. So are there any questions that I haven't asked that you think we should know about air and air quality or air filtration?
Well, I think what people really have to understand when it comes to air quality is not all problems are the same. And so for us, and I think for any, responsible company, it's really having the consumer understand what they're trying to accomplish with an air cleaning system. And all of us, this isn't something where it's just New York City and LA. 70% of Americans live in highly polluted environments. So this is Salt Lake City, Utah. This is Denver, Colorado, where you think mountains and skiing. It's a major, major issue. And I think that what people have to realize is that they should really understand what it is they're trying to accomplish before they purchase something and get the right information. And everything's about customer experience, right? We want to give people the best for their money. And I think you'll find that with a little bit of education and the right customer service, they can find the solution.
Awesome. So one question that I like to ask all of my guests is if you have, and it doesn't have to be, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it doesn't have to be air quality specific. If you have just one tip or piece of advice for our listeners on how they can live a happier and healthier life, what would that be?
Don't take things personally. I think the key to life, if it's just as spiritual or if it's just don't take things personally, I think we get too tied to that. And I think that I've tried to live my life in a way that, if you're out there doing anything in life, you're going to have a lot of critics, and just to not take things personally and focus on your goal and just keep working towards it. And I think that's the same with our health habits and anything. It's just don't take things personally, focus on what you're trying to accomplish and be the best version of yourself. And if you can do that, I think the sky's the limit.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing about air quality. It's really a very fascinating subject. And if anyone wants to learn more about IntelliPure, you can head to IntelliPure.com. And anywhere else people should check you guys out?
Yeah, we're really growing globally. And so IntelliPure.com, I always tell people to check that out. Put your zip code search in there, and you can actually get an idea of what your air quality is today. And then Pure Room. PureRoom.com is PureRoom.com. If you're traveling and you want to experience the best night's sleep while on the road, that's a great way to be able to do that. So we're excited about that program. And I know that Max and several of his friends have stayed in rooms and really had a great experience as well.
For sure. Well, thanks so much. And
thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Take care.
If you're interested in your health, and I'm assuming you are because you're listening to this podcast, then you definitely want to think about your air quality. If you're already eating organic foods and drinking high quality purified water, then the next step is to really look at your air. And the way that you can gain control over your air, besides for moving to a less polluted city, which is out of the question for a lot of us, the next best thing you can do is ensure that your indoor environments, that you're really paying attention and cleaning the air there. The way to do that is with a high quality air filter like IntelliPure. So for anyone listening who wants a high quality air filter, I highly encourage you to check out IntelliPure. And if you do, be sure to use the code HAPPIER, HAPPIER, to get 10% off. So thank you, Vinny, for offering that to the listeners of the Happier and Healthier podcast.